Go ahead and give us an opening statement if you don't care, and just tell us a little bit about yourself to a minute.
Okay. I'm Mary Hammonds, and I'm your Knox County jailer, and I have been since 2011. And at that point, we had a 35-bed facility, and we were looking at around 150 to 200 county inmates at a time. And we tried to keep around 100 inmates with us over there, but we housed in 6 other different jails at that point. And we were looking to build a facility, and we eventually got 2. And we opened up in 2019, and because of the voters, I got to open that facility, and I'm very proud of it, very thankful for their votes during that election, because I really wanted to open that facility.
Thank you. We'll get started.
Okay.
Okay, first question. Beyond the obvious, how do you see the role of a jailer?
I think of a jailer as a person who takes care of the facility, the space, the safety of it, the inmates that are there, taking care of their medical needs, taking care of their court needs, taking care of their family needs. It's kind of like a social worker in the making, and also just making sure everybody is safe while you're doing that job.
Okay. Do you feel that deputy jailers are adequately compensated? And whether you say yes or no, explain.
Okay, and I don't. Right now, if you take a part-time job with me, you make $10 an hour. And then if you're full-time, I think it's $12, and you can possibly make, an extra dollar after you've been there for a little bit. But you can go most factories and make, as equal pay, at least the $10, and most of the other, and even Walmart is doing, better than that. And what happens with us when we train those deputies, then they go to other jails, and then they work there, and they do the same job, but they're making more money.
Okay. The success of the jail obviously largely resides with its staff, with the people you hire. What do you think could be done maybe to retain staff members more long-term to reducing turnover?
Well, the same thing would be increasing the salary, because if you think about how much you would make a week, you wouldn't be able hardly to pay your rent, your utilities, your food, especially with food and gas the way it is now, and especially if you didn't live very close to the jail, you'd have a big gas bill. But I think that money has a lot to do with it, and more classes, but we do train. It went up from 16 hours a year. They get training every year. Now it's 24 hours a year training.
Speaking of training, what sort of staff training would you prioritize for your deputy jailers?
A lot of it is force, being able to control the situation. There's lots of classes that are on that one. We do already have pepper spray. We do taser trainings, and you have to, in order to use pepper spray, you all can use pepper spray on the street. You don't have to be trained, but if you're in the jail, you're not allowed to unless you have that training, and they have to be pepper sprayed themselves, and then they have to do certain activities or whatever. So it's not I like to use it whenever I want to. So they do have the training, they do have the paperwork that goes with it if it's used.
Candidates, this has been a question much like the one I asked Tom earlier. Candidates run for office with promises of transparency. Do you pledge to keep an open office in the office of jailer and work with your local newspaper and other media outlets as they report on activities and spending and other activities within your jail?
As far as I can, and knowing that you run a jail and you're dealing with other people's lives and you're dealing with the judicial system and you're dealing with the Department of Corrections, there's lots of things that we're not allowed to share because it's an undergoing investigation or whatever. But as much as I can possibly do, I would share with the media.
My last question, why do you want to be jailer?
Well, my grandson said, I said that last time was my last time. But that was before COVID came around. And because of COVID, we were so restricted for like 2.5 years that I feel like that we didn't get to do what we would have planned on doing. And so there's lots of classes and lots of educational opportunities that I still have in mind, and there's lots of other projects that I still have in mind that I want to accomplish before, I step aside. And I would really appreciate if the voters would consider voting for me again.
Take up to a minute and for your closing remarks.
The major thing that I just want to say is that the jail has been a top priority in my life for the last 11 and a half years. I live it, I sleep it, I eat it. There's not any time that my phone is turned off that I'm not listening to them or calling them or asking them something about it. And I have the experience that it takes to run a facility that's as large as it's a 294-bed facility. And there's lots of contracts that go with it. There's lots of paperwork that goes with it. It's a business that has to be ran. And I feel like I'm the most qualified candidate for that business. And I would appreciate anybody that would consider voting for me, and I would thank them. I'd be very thankful.